just after the crash of '85 and industry down, and I wasn't playing music at the time. And so I moved to Portland, and it was kind of a winter day, and I was cleaning a billboard. I was actually working for the billboard company, and I was up on a billboard, and I came down, grabbed a hold of a ladder on the way down, and broke 8 rungs of aluminum ladder before I hit the ground. And fortunately, a young boy was with his mother at a bus stop across the street and happened to see me fall. And he goes, "Look, Mom, that guy just jumped off his sign." And so they called the ambulance. I was still conscious, but in shock. And I got to the hospital, and then I was in 2 years of rehab and reconstruction, and nearly lost my arm. And so I had to reinvent myself. And so, you know, I was a musician and playing music one day, and, you know, then working in the construction industry to, you know, pay the bills and feed the horses. And the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital recovering. So,
well, that's a real kick in the ass, right? That's
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, the upside though, Ruben, the upside is the company that I worked for came back and hired me back, and I became the safety director. So I wrote fall protection. So I wrote fall protection programs and wrote safety manuals, and I started working with all this software, and that's what got me in the tech field. So it led me down the technology path. So.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
You were working on a billboard, you said?
Yeah, outdoor advertising.
So isn't there's a little bit of a paradox in there, something kind of interesting, that you were working on a billboard in construction for advertising, and then you fell 3 stories to get into basically advertising. So now it makes sense. You fell 3 stories to get into advertising. So it was from advertising to advertising, just, you know, the real world you know, digital and technical.
Yeah, it's wordsmithing, you know. That's what we call marketing, right?
That's crazy. So you know I'm a drummer, right?
No, I did not know that. I saw your drums in your office on one of your videos. So
yeah, no, but I'm like a drummer. Like I've been drumming since I was about 13 years old.
All right, I started when I was 11. I started playing clubs when I was 16.
No way, that's a trip. Yeah.
I was in bands that, you know, we had a 20, 30 foot Bluebird bus and traveled around the country and Northwest and Canada, and had a great time. Yeah.
Who would you say your early influences in music are?
Well, when I started playing, it was kind of in the disco era. So I played country, and then I really enjoyed the 80s because that was more, I resonated with that. So, you know, mostly corporate rock bands. You know, I really liked bands like Cold Blood early on, Tower of Power, you know, Average White Band. Funk, I was really into funk. I really liked funk, reggae. And then, you know, Journey, you know, all of the big hair bands that came along after that. And then I was kind of then I got into electronic. I've actually performed dubstep in Houston in the past. So I've DJ'd and played dubstep in Houston when I was there.
Very cool.
In 2010. I left there a year and a half ago. So
we almost called the dub automated workflows dubstep.
Oh, really? I would love. I saw the dub label and I thought, I got to pick this up. I got to check it out.
That's cool.
That's very cool. So we'll have to talk offline sometime about drumming and.
Yeah. Well, my origin story on drums is Tom Sawyer. You know.
Oh yeah.
Rush.
The Professor.
Yeah, Neil Peart. You know, and I just heard him when I was a kid, and him along with John Bonham, and I bought these 2 books. I bought Moving Pictures, the book, the drum book, and I bought I think it was Led Zeppelin 4. And I learned every single song off from every single album on the drums. I could play them to perfection. You know, I play them. You know, I remember I had my drum kit on the second of my bunk bed, on the top of my bunk bed, and I would just jam and play, and it was a lot of fun. And then I got into a band and, you know, went down that route, and it was it was incredible. And to this date, I mean, I still play music. You know, I've got actually have some bongos next to me, and I think 2 guitars and then a ukulele here, along with a ton of percussion. But really, the beat, I think, of my life is, you know, rhythm and percussion and music, and, you know, we're always composing, you know, so I haven't stopped drumming since then.
Well, I got really into Ableton Live and composing music. So, you know, I have all the electronic equipment for that. So it's really handy. And then, you know, I taught podcasting at Podcast Movement, and I taught podcasting and I used to run radio stations in Houston as well at one point in time. And audio, music, you know, all of this equipment, this gear, and being a nerd kind of all comes together at once. And music has always been the thread that kind of held it all together.
Well, if you have tracks, please send them our way, and we will find a home for them in one of our videos.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. So speaking of podcasting, though, you know, it's just blown up. It's like everywhere I look, there's something cool out there, and I want to consume all of it. And some of them are so long. Some of the podcasts are like 3 hours. How do I even get through this? You know,
I got to take a long road trip just to consume this.
Right. And I found myself, you know, driving, and I'll lose internet, and then I'll lose the podcast, and then I'll get that like road rage. I'll be like, no, where's my podcast?
Yeah. And then, you know, Spotify just purchased Anchor FM.
Yeah.
And Gimlet Media, you know, Gimlet was, you know, they've grown huge. So it's amazing. And, you know, I have friends in the podcast arena, and their podcasts are growing and expanding, and people wanted a more personalized experience. I think, you know, it goes back to the relationship that you have, because podcasting can be very intimate, you know, just like this show. It's amazing how personalized it can be.
Well, like you, I have some of that, you know, corporate America experience. And I think I sort of suffered for a while of being stuck into a situation where you couldn't necessarily have casual conversations like this, create casual content, but really get that authentic, real honest stories from people. Because corporate, at least many years ago, it used to be very contrived and very overproduced, and everything had to be pristine. But that's not really what people want anymore. Now they want real human stories, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's definitely helped to the whole podcast thing, especially in corporate, you know? So what's your take on that? I mean, you have so much experience. Give us some tips and tricks on.
Well, I think organizations, if they're not creating a show around their products and services and the value they bring to their community, I think they're missing out. I really think that corporate podcasts or shows, you know, producing content around how they help, who they help, and how to engage with them. I think that has to be part of your equation if you're going to be doing business in the next 5-10 years. And if you're not producing that content right now, you need to start, because it's not a matter of if it will happen, it's a matter of when it will happen and how it evolves. I mean, we're already seeing it. You know, how many hours of traditional television have you watched in the last month?
Stranger Things, couple episodes.
That's not CBS, NBC.
No, zero. I haven't watched regular.
I haven't owned a TV since '95.
Yeah.
So the reality is people are streaming, and they'll pay a subscription fee to avoid commercials, right?
Right.
So if a company and organization is spending millions of dollars on commercials, and you go down the highway, you know, the passengers are looking at their phone. They're not looking at the billboards anymore. So if you want to be engaged in your community, you have an opportunity right now that is cost effective, it's impactful, and you can grow a community around your cause, and you can get some fans of your product and have the fans become your advertising. And you do that by creating content that they can thrive in and understand and appreciate. It's not a matter of, okay, how many people can I spam today? It's a matter of how many people can I engage and have them appreciate and understand what we're accomplishing.
Yeah, well said. In the Dub Facebook group, someone actually asked a question. They said, "Hey, can Dub be used for cold email outreach?" And it's total risky realm.
Sure.
Everyone's at risk when people start fooling around with that, because if it's not opt-in and you get the spam complaints, it's just terrible for everyone. Plus, it doesn't really work. I have, been involved with a lot of different types of companies of all sizes, and I've seen people do a lot of different types of tests, and I've seen people fail miserably at cold reach, even with all the amazing tech that's out there and the
Mhm.
IP stuff and all this crazy stuff. It doesn't work because of a couple of reasons. I think number one is that you're not really solving the trust problem. I mean, the biggest problem that we're suffering from on the internet right now is trust.
Yeah.
We can't trust one another because there's so much garbage out there. So there's so many bad actors. There's so many things that are happening all around us. We consume, we watch the news, and we get very weary about people. And unless we know them or they've been referred or we've built some sort of a relationship. So
Mhm.
when someone comes out from the wild cold and they say, "Here's X, Y, and Z, and buy LMNOP," it's it's not even the content that they're looking at. They're looking at the person and they're saying, what are the worst things that could potentially happen if I
Yeah.
engage with this person? So, to your point, I think the right strategy is to do things like this, to create content, to be original, to provide a tremendous amount of value, to help people, to really truly educate them so that as they go down their path and they try to overcome their challenges, that they remember, hey, you know what? It was Russ that helped me. And actually, I should give him a call because I need help with my digital marketing now. and
Yeah.
and I think that trust is really where all the opportunity is. So no shortcuts here.
No shortcuts. And here's the thing is people, a lot of people imagine that social media is a shortcut to results. And it's not. It's a tool. It's only a tool, and the work still needs to go into the tool. Whether you're meeting someone across a table with a cup of coffee, a glass of tea, or a beer, wine, or whatever your choice is, or dinner, if you're not connecting with that individual and not real, it doesn't matter what you do if they don't really trust you or like you or you know appreciate what you're doing, you're not going to do business. I mean, I'd rather attract and engage than chase and convince. And if I can do that, and if I can do that and broadcast something positive to the world, kindness is cool, smiles are free, enjoy the day. There's nothing. I'm not selling anything with that, right? Except a positive. And then if I add to it, some helpful advice and some meaningful content, and then people understand who I am. And then when I have something I want to offer or I want to share, or people ask me what I do, then I can tell them, and there's no guard up. There's no resistance to that conversation. It's all part of the process. So, you can post as much as you want on social media. And like I said at the beginning, it still boils down to having the opportunity to have a conversation, whether it's one to many or one-on-one. It's still a conversation that needs to take place.
I really like what you said. You'd rather attract and engage versus, you said, chase and
Chase and
convince.
convince.
That's great. I mean, we kicked off some kind of classic demand generation initiatives on our side, and the inbound leads that we're getting, the
Uh-huh.
the conversion rate compared to what they used to be in our early days, with outbound outreach, cold sort of cold calling and cold outreach, it's like 5 to 7 times higher in terms of a conversion rate, because when people come to us, they made a choice.
Mhm.
They decided to pursue a path. They decided that they have some issue and that we potentially can solve it. And we're really realizing the benefits from that. I mean, we've got a long way to go. It's a lot of work. It's a slog, but we're investing into our content and into our education, and it seems to be working.
So have you seen, has your experience been that it's been productive in the content you're creating?
Well,
Is
I
there a
think
cause and effect, or have you seen it yet? Have you noticed it yet?
well, I think that there's two or three levels right now. So I think there's the vast majority of the people that sign up to Dub, we have no source on them. There's no attribution, there's no UTM value. Source equals other. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So we like that. I have no problem with that. Not everything needs to
They're
be
still arriving at the door, knocking
exactly
to come in.
right. We have a little old school 1995 style drop down that says, "How did you hear about us?"
Yeah.
It's a catch-all. But I'll tell you this: we use a lot of tech to try to get attribution as clean as possible.
Yeah.
But guess what? When it comes to word of mouth and branding and people talking, they just go to your domain name. They're like, "Oh, well, I've heard of that company. Let me go check it out." And they type in your URL and they go to dub.com and then they just visit us. So
I can't tell you how many people ask me, how did you do that?
yeah, well, there you go. So,
And I tell them, I say, hey, this is this is awesome. Go check it out. Here's how you use it.
And I hook you're using the affiliate link, just on a side note.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, for a reason. So we want to help hook people up. But I think that at some point I realized that I have to let go. I used to have an obsession with attribution. I mean, UTM values down to 4 or 5 levels down. I'd get the content in there. I'd get the term in there. Every single link on every single blog post, every single ad had a different UTM value. And I realized that it's just, we're not going to scale like that. If we continue to put all these weird looking links all over the place,
you're reaching in the wrong direction.
Exactly. So we just
have to reach up.
Exactly.
Not back.
Right. So at some point, I just said, look, I want to make myself vulnerable and I want to, really invest into branding and invest and really fuel the conversations that are happening out there.
Yeah.
So we made that choice. And first of all, it liberated us from a content perspective, because now when we post something on social, very rarely, unless it's a paid ad, there's no attribution to it. If it's a click through, we have sort of a last click data parameter that we'll collect. But it's just a lot easier. So to answer your question, what we've noticed is that there's a lot of conversations that are happening around what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those are centered around our daily content, also as a social tool, since Dub is about allowing people to connect one-to-one or one-to-many, just like you said, they learn about the tech and they say, oh, well, what is it that you're using to use video to communicate? How did you just email me a video? What is that? And then they click on the link below, or they just ask. So, we're trying to dial in our channels. I can't imagine not doing as much content as we're doing right now. We've slowed down on blog posts, which is probably a bad thing. The last thing I'll say is that it looks like a lot of our stuff is off the cuff and, we don't have sort of a clear understanding of what our content calendar is, but that's actually not the case. Everything is data driven. We actually use a lot of SEO tools to figure out where we're in the game, what people are typing in to land on our website. And then those keywords is what we explore. So, yesterday we dropped a video on small business videos, because a lot of our clientele, small, medium-sized businesses, they're coming up with videos, they're producing them, they're recording them, they're sharing them. People are coming to us typing in small business videos. So we built a whole, 7 or 8 or 9 minute long video, and it was a lot of fun. We went to this hotel and we provided a ton of value, but it all tracked back to that, SEO keyword term essentially that we're trying to target. So, but we take the nerdiness and the geekiness out of it, and we're transparent about it, but at the same time, we go beyond that. We bring in the lifestyle, we bring in the content, we bring in the entertainment, and sometimes a skateboard.
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate is not only the transparency, and it's just the ease of use that you can present in your videos. It's like, okay, just walking down the street, you got your skateboard and you got, different, like you did the one on the real estate, where you're doing different aspects of a house and different shots you could bring. That was a longer video piece of content that was valuable. And it's like, okay, just look at different perspectives on storytelling. It wasn't necessarily about the Dub application itself. It was about the storytelling process that you can use to enhance your video and add to the value that you're bringing to the table. And that's what I think you're not pitching a product, you're you're pitching the story about how you can improve your own product
Right.
using video. And it's just elegant. And I just, like I said, hats off to you guys for, knocking this down and getting it out. Cause I've looked at so many platforms. I looked at, you know, emailing videos, and I even created I did a startup where it was called Follow Up Leads, where it would, automate a business card, a video business card, and automation and a bunch of stuff. And it's like, I know how challenging it is to create something from nothing and have that whole process and the evolution of that process. And it's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah, well, it was a non-linear journey, and the journey continues, and a lot of ups and downs, lots of war stories, lots of pivots, lots
yeah,
of listening to customer feedback and
yeah.
figure out where the product should go. So we're still on that path.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully you'll not. It won't be a destination. It's more about the journey.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the biggest thing right there. I mean, for me, it's I've spent the years of my life not really enjoying what I was doing. I was doing it and I was working hard
Yeah,
and very technical, but my eyes were bleeding and my heart was just in pain and my brain was suffering because I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing.
yeah.
And I didn't feel like I was really providing any true value, and I I suffered from that, and it took me years to really realize that it was actually fear that I was trying to overcome.
Oh
Um,
man.
Fear of getting out there, fear of taking risk, fear of making different choices, and to know really that I have the confidence and I have the ability to do what I need to do. I mean, I used to be a behind the scenes kind of a guy,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't do well at that. There are people that are much smarter than me and much faster than me with way better skills. And I realized, hey, listen, I better just lean into whatever the hell I am and just get the hell out there.
Well, that's so funny that you should say that, because I think there's a real need in a lot of lives right now, especially younger lives. People attempting to discover what they really bring to the table versus what people expect them to bring to the table.
Hmm.
And that's an entirely different show, and it could go on for hours. However, I think it's really important for people to understand that with technology, it evens the playing field. You can publish what you want, you can share what you need, and you can explore different activities and ideas. And it's like, okay, I don't know anything about this job or this career, and I'm going to school for it. I should probably understand a little bit more about what it takes to do that. And with the technology today, you could find out an answer. And I've seen so many people start a business, and they get into the business thinking they're going to love it because they like cooking or a coffee shop or something, and they get in actually doing the business and they hate it. And it's like, this is not what I imagined. This is not the result I anticipated. And so, with the technology today, you can actually find out and discover some things about different careers, different ideas, different paths. And some, like you and I, it's like, okay, creating our own thing is as a result of finding out that we don't fit into another box. It's think outside the box, and we have to explore those avenues.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it's such a crazy thing that the paths of our lives are they're you never know what you're gonna run into. You never know what thing you're gonna fall off or how you're gonna fail or how
Yeah.
the universe is gonna say, hey, listen, that's not really for you. And it's at that moment where the magic happens.
Oh,
Realize,
absolutely.
I gotta connect these dots and I have to, you know, take these signs. But then on the flip side, sometimes when the universe kicks your ass, you
Yeah.
have to get up and say, you know what, actually, no, I'm not going to give up and I'm going to continue on this path. And it's
Yeah.
the hardest thing to know which one to do.
Yeah.
you
We'll have
know?
that conversation another time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I tell you this, I feel for the, young people, pre-adolescents, adolescents now that are on social, they're consuming media, they're seeing these stories that are being told out there, and then they're coming up with their hopes and dreams and their career aspirations.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes, what are those aspirations based on? Like, for example, there was this term in India, my ethnic background is that my family is from India.
Uh-huh.
So there was this term, which it still exists, and it's this idea of Western envy. So some parts of the East, they'll have MTV and they'll have Hollywood movies and, rap videos and music videos and everything. And, the young population, they'll consume that content and they'll say, that's what I want to be like. That's how I want to dress. That's how I want to look.
Yeah.
That's the whatever lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that they're basing those hopes and dreams off, though? They're basing it off of media that's created by producers meant to entertain us.
It's a false premise.
It's a false premise. So, I always encourage people, dig deep and really find what the truth is out there. Don't take things at face value. Peel the onion a couple of layers back. Go 3, 4, 6 links, clicks in. And find the truth, and let that be your motivation. Let that be your inspiration.
Yeah. Cause I have chased the American dream and, had the 2 kids in the house and, the large lot and the property and all that kind of stuff. And at some point in time, my life became a nightmare because I was suicidal. It's like, this is not working out for me. And I had to make some major changes and some decisions, and it's more difficult now because of the amount of information that is out there distracting us and some of the things that we're told we need to do, and the paths that we need to take. And this is what you should do. And the reality is there's no security. There's no such thing as security in my mind, real security. It's like tomorrow's not guaranteed. Corporate America, one sale, one ink signature on a piece of paper can sell a company and your job can be eliminated. So, things will happen. Things take place all the time. And if you can find joy in what you're doing at the moment and, enjoy the journey and where you're going, and then make some decisions based on what really brings you joy, I think longer term, you'll be better off. I mean, I'm not against planning or strategy or anything like that. I'm totally for that. However, like you said, doing what you're told or what you imagine from the media isn't necessarily what you're really going to gravitate to in life and make you happy.
Yeah, well said. So what would you say your best decision was?
My best decision is to continue chasing and working on my goal to help more people with the information I've learned over the last 30 years. And that's the most important thing to me right now is I want to create courses and content and share that information with people to help their lives easier. Because I see so many business owners that are overwhelmed by technology. They're overwhelmed by what to do in their marketing stack, how to put the pieces together. And I think because I love that research, I love the concept of, testing things. I love the evaluation, and I love bringing it all together and, being Mr. Wizard and saying, okay, here's a stack that will work for your business. And here's the direction you need to go. And here's what the results are going to, here's the direction you need to go for the results you're looking for. And there's 10,000 ways to do things, and they only need one thing. They just need a checklist. Say, give me a way, give me an answer. Give me a checklist so I can go down this checklist and get it done. Because they're wearing 10 hats, so they don't have the time to really analyze every decision they make. So if I can add value in that equation and help them get their branding out, put their marketing together, and avoid the technology overwhelm, that's what I'm looking to help more people to do.
Give me some links so people can find you.
Yeah, russjohns.com. You can always book a call with me at bookruss.com. It takes right to my calendar. I believe in removing the friction, and that'll book a call. I have schedules open in my calendar. The next platform that I'm growing for this to teach and share information is theleadwizard.com. So that's there. And then I continue doing business through my marketing agency with nextstepnext.com. So
very cool. And give us some sort of real tactical tips. You know, there's a lot of businesses out there that aren't necessarily leveraging video the way that they should be to communicate, to streamline comm, to drive revenue. Give us some kind of tactical trips. It seems like you are a little bit of a natural. I see some equipment behind you, some cool looking tripods. You got the microphone, you got the experience. So, you know, how can you make it easier for people?
Well, the first thing and the biggest challenge, and you mentioned it earlier, is fear. You know, you have to become comfortable with what you're doing. And when you become comfortable and you practice a few times, it becomes so much easier. And picking up a phone and just starting is the first step. Even if you don't broadcast it, even if you don't share it, just practice and pick a few things and start practicing, because I truly believe that the best way to make a connection and build relationships is with video. I mean, it's amazing how many people you see that won't shoot video that are on FaceTime with their grandkids or their cousins or brothers and sisters or family. They'll jump on FaceTime all day long and they won't shoot a video. It's if they frame it differently, it's like you're just talking to a customer on the other side of that screen. That's all you're doing. And if you can, kind of get that idea in your head, you're going to be much better off. And use Dub. Dub is a fantastic platform, and it's simple and it's easy to access. It's easy to use, and create a call to action and just say, hey, I was reaching out to you. Another thing, you have a ton of people in your phone already. If you have people that you've already connected with and you're building relationships with them and you haven't talked to them for 3 months, send them a message, make a call, say, hey, I'm doing this A, B, and C, and I just wanted to reach out and check in on you. And people really respond to that. And then the first thing they're going to say is, well, what's going on in your world? And then start a conversation. And the way to scale that is to allow several people in your community to understand how they can help you. And people are willing to help all day long. I mean, you ask for help and somebody's going to help you. And I found that to be true over and over, even when I didn't want it to be happening. It's like, oh, I got this. No, I got it. I could do this. It's like, well, let me help you. Okay, here, have it. And once you get past that hurdle and allow people to start helping you, and you can broadcast the fact of how they can help you, life is so much easier. It just turns it around.
Well, I think one of the things that I've definitely suffered from and still do to a certain extent is the idea of taking help from people.
Yeah. Accepting it.
I think about the software that I have on my computer, and it's like, God, how did I even learn how to use that program? That's crazy. How is it that I was on Photoshop on an Apple IIgs when I was a little tiny kid. There was actually no hard drive on this computer. It was all through disk, the floppies. And, I never stopped using Photoshop. I still use it to this day, when we're done with this podcast, I'm going to take the MP4 file and I'm going to put it into Adobe After Effects, and I'm going to, export it and create a cool looking waveform. But I think the point is that that's not necessarily a good thing. There are experts out there. There are consultants and specialists and agencies, and firms that can help us with all the things that we do.
And just send it to a Dropbox, have somebody notified, and then have them process it to your specifications and guidelines, and then it gets delivered. Period. End.
Exactly. And then I should, get on a phone call, or I should do another podcast, or I should have a business meeting. But, letting go sometimes is difficult. And I think that I'm sort of enamored with the whole, creation, the production process. It's just so much fun for me. I mean, the gear and the tech and, I love it, Well,
I love the idea of multicasting too. And I'm sure that, that's something that you guys have looked into. And there's a couple of platforms out there that, Restream and Caster.io and some of those other platforms that you can broadcast to multiple platforms at once. And when I first started 2 Minute Tips, I was doing on YouTube. I had a podcast. I'd do it to LinkedIn. I'd do it to Facebook. And I'd do this entire show, and it'd take me about an hour. And I'd do it late at night, last thing I'd do, and boom, then I'd be out on all these platforms. And there's ways that you can optimize, and there's ways that you just have to be patient and wait for somebody else to do it. If you automate to, have somebody else do it. But I've been playing around with lower thirds. So I don't know how you do that. If you do that in Premiere, or do you do that by hand, or do you do an SRT file some other way, or?
Yeah, so Shannon he actually produces all the content for us. He's like a wizard. Speaking of wizards, he's a wizard in Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere, and then just as a cinematographer, filmmaker, right? So he's really the core producer of our content. So he uses kind of all the tools. But I think that what he's really taught me, and I think that what more people need to embrace, is this idea of a no edit situation.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, I got to go produce a video, and then I got to get it, cut, edited, post-production, sound, music, blah, 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 a whole process.
Yeah.
4 weeks later, you watch it and you're still not pleased with it. And whatever it is that you were selling, or whatever it is that you wanted to communicate, or whatever campaign that you had, is now outdated.
The idea that you wanted to really articulate at that moment is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's lost its seam, it's lost its flavor, so I'm actually encouraging people, and I do this myself constantly, is to just embrace the no edit situation. If there's a lull, if you say, if there's a little mistake, if something happens in your world, if you're interrupted, if a dog comes and, tries to irritate you, you just embrace it. And that's your reality, and that's your life. And you just, provide a stream of consciousness, and that all of a sudden becomes honest and truthful. And now people say, well, wow, look, this guy is navigating life, and I get to watch this guy or this gal, So I always encourage that.
Yeah, I love that. And I really appreciate that you said that, because it's very meaningful to a lot of people to actually see somebody else doing what they imagine they want to do. And it's like, okay, I'm almost there. I can almost do that. But not quite.
Right.
They can. You can.
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes when I look at some of the stuff that we produce, I say, gosh, what would it look like if there was zero production on this? And I just went out there and did a no edit situation in selfie mode. And sometimes I say, well, you know what? It would have been cool. It would have been interesting. And maybe I would have fallen on my ass in the process, but that would have been content and hilarious.
I think the danger in thinking like that is what brings life to the story, though.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There it is. Yeah. Very cool. So awesome. So listen, this was really, really fun. Every time I do a podcast like this, I'm just reminded of, how important it is to kind of build these relationships. You and I we had a business relationship before this podcast, and now it's been, fortified. So I love that. And I really appreciate your time.
And drummers need to stick together.
That's right. That's right. Should I give you a little drum something?
Yeah, give me a drum solo.
Close it out. All right. Let's
close it out.
All right. Let's close this out. I'll just kind of re-angle this. So webcam here. This is probably going to be extremely loud, but here we go.
All right.
There it is.
Nice work. That's a great way to close a show anytime.
That's right. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate you, Wizard.
Thank you. And all the best to all you and the crew, and Ruben. Have a fantastic day. And you enjoy the day.
Thank you so much. And remember, guys, kindness is cool, and smiles are free. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.